Shalom, everyone. Let's get in the spirit with just a little bit of singing. Some of you may recognize this melody.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are so happy to be welcoming in Shabbat with you this week on this sunny, not snowy, not blizzard anticipating week. We're feeling pretty good about that and about the sunshine. And, you know, this is our first Shabbat of daylight savings time. Or the opposite. I never know which way it goes, but it doesn't feel like it should be Shabbat yet. And it's just this reminder that spring is coming, and we know it. Passover is next week. Shh, don't tell Cantor Sachs, but Passover is next week, and that means spring is here. And so let's welcome this Shabbat now with our blessing over the lighting of our Shabbat candles.
So the Talmud teaches us that you can always bring Shabbat in early, even if the sun has not yet started its descent. So we breathe in what it feels like to create our own sacred time while we are creating our own sacred space. And so we take a deep breath. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Let's take one more big, deep breath and welcome that Shabbat in as we pray these words together. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. And as I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. Every week, every Shabbat, we get to this moment and we prepare ourselves to greet Shabbat. To greet Shabbat, it's as if we're going to go and we're going to open the door and Shabbat is going to come in. And when I think about opening the front door and letting someone in, I think I have to make sure that you always sort of check yourself. Am I clothed? Am I decent? Am I right? Do I have my mask on? I have to open the door. What do I need to do before I greet whoever's on the other side? So think about it now for a second. What do you need to greet Shabbat? Do you need another deep breath? Do you need a moment of stillness? Do you need to, fix your hair, fix your makeup, get your mask? Do you need a little bit of breath that calms you? Do you need to put away whatever's distracting you from this moment? Prepare yourself. We prepare ourselves to greet Shabbat with Lecha Dodi. And as we have welcomed Shabbat in, we now greet and welcome and call each other to prayer. Even when we are apart, we do not pray alone. And so we call ourselves, we call each other, and we call God into this space so that we can pray together the words of the Baruch Hu. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose name I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher ba'amo Yisrael ba'ahava.
Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are Shema, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad. Shema, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad. Baruch, Baruch, Shem Kavod, Malchuto, Le'olam Le'olam Shema, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad, Adonai You may be seated. Let's chant Ve'ahavta together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמן.
the Israelites walked into the Reed Sea 1 foot at a time. What were they thinking about as the water rose up their legs, chilling their hearts, advancing toward their open mouths? Read with me. We continue to walk here, now, 1 foot at a time on our better days forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning. Somehow, I don't go under. The person to my right holds me up. Something I cannot see holds him up. Blessed is the source of help, so often unexpected. I step forward. The sea is vast. Blessed are you, gracious one, for your miracles that greet us every day.
We are going to sing a new Michamocha tonight in honor of our upcoming Pesach holiday, Passover holiday, where we celebrate our freedom, but also never forget that freedom is an ongoing enterprise. We work at it day after day, over and over again. And so as the words of this interpretation of Michamocha remind us, there is still work to do. So let's learn it together. Here's how the first part goes. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilo, Nora tehilo, O Sefer. Let's do that again. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilo, Nora tehilo, O Sefer. And the river is wide, and the river is deep, and the river is standing between you and me, and freedom, but we shall overcome someday. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilo, Nora tehilo, O Sefer. And the river is fear, and the river is hate, and the river is standing between us and the gates of freedom, freedom, but we shall overcome someday. With a tambourine and a mighty hand, across the sea and the desert sand, let the children sing for Miriam. Next year in the promised land, next year in the promised land, next year in the promised land, next year in Jerusalem. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilo, Nora tehilo, O Sefer. And the river divides, and the river is forgiving.
This is the season of freedom, of reliving the ancient journey, of remembering the treacherous path. This is the season that calls us to stand together, the season that summons us to God's law, the season that leads us home. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael, blessed are you, Adonai, who redeems Israel. And as the night begins to fall, we begin to think about what we ask God in the evening. And so we read these words together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter, into the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu va'al kol amo Yisrael va'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Hashivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from the hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, Hamidenu shomreinu
Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. We rise physically or spiritually for our tefillah.
So you may have noticed that we are using a number of new tunes this evening, new prayers, new pieces of music. This Adonai Svatai Tiftach, written by a cantorial friend of mine, Natalie Young, has always reminded me of soft waves of water. And as we enter Pesach and remember what it might have felt like to look at that sea and the way it was moving, and to imagine walking through it, This brings a little bit of a gentler moment to the meditative aspect of freedom. So we rise as we are able, physically or spiritually, for tefillah. Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sfatai tiftach, Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imaot, u'Mevii Geula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ava, Melech Ozer, Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach u'Morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim b'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol b'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim v'Rofei Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, U'Mido Melach, Melech Mimir u'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Natan HaChayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yalelucha Selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We take a moment now for the words that we have not yet said, the prayers of our hearts or our minds, and we come back together in just a few moments.
So as you can see from the slide, Pesach is upon us. And there are so many themes that we lift up in this holiday, but one of the ones that is so central to what we do is this idea that freedom for us also results in justice for others, and giving, and tzedakah. And so we sing this prayer that is the cornerstone of our Haggadah. Halachma Anya. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let's do that again. Halachmanya, halachmanya, halachmanya. The bread that we ate in Mitzrayim. All who are hungry, let them come and eat.
We arrive now at our Torah service this evening, and as usual, we've got a little something to learn about what's happening before we do any reading, but we're actually not going to talk so much about the Torah portion as we are going to talk about what's coming. And I told you, we're only a week out from Passover. And so I've been thinking a lot about Passover, and Neil's been learning about Passover at school, and he comes home and he's like, I learned all 10 plagues. And half of them I think he understood, and the other half we're still working on. But it's been a really interesting process to think about the plagues through a kid's eyes as usual, but also just to think about them this year. So let's recap just so we know. Moses comes to Pharaoh on behalf of God and says, let my people go. And Pharaoh says no. And then there are 10 plagues. And they take up many verses of the Torah, and they seem to get worse and worse, and the Israelites are slaves while all of this is happening. They're still working hard and toiling and watching the plagues happen. And so as I think about what this must have been like, I imagine the emotional roller coaster that the Israelites must have been on, thinking that maybe there would be freedom after every plague. We're not told that there are going to be 10 plagues at the beginning, so after each one, which is worse than the one before it, the Israelites probably assumed that they would have freedom after each and every one. Rashi tells us that the plagues took at least 9 months. Each plague was in effect, says Rashi, for a quarter of a month, 1 full week, and then for the following 3 weeks of the month, God warned and cautioned the Egyptians. That's a long time. That's months of plagues. And we read commentary after commentary about how Pharaoh reacted in between each of those plagues. We learned that he was sad and things were hard, and then they were over, and so he felt relief, and then he worried about losing his free labor force, understandably so, and so he hardened his heart, and then God intervened and hardened his heart for him. But we hear nothing about how the people felt, about the Egyptians that suffered, or the Israelites that just stood by and watched. And it is the Israelites who have been slaves for a really long time, who knew about freedom but had never experienced it, who knew that there was a possibility of that freedom, but they weren't guaranteed it. And then Moses shows up and gets involved and starts talking to them about God, and then God gets involved, and those same Israelites who are already traumatized by lives of slavery and hard work and tears and pain are present for the terror of each and every one of those plagues. They watch and experience so much of the pain and the suffering and the fear caused by each plague. Can you imagine what it must have felt like, how they felt when the waters turned to blood, and for a week there was no water? Crops died, animals died, people died. And the Israelites watched, and they worried, and they waited. And then can you imagine how they felt when the lice showed up, and the boils erupted, and the hail fell, and the darkness blinded, and then the children died? And how they felt in that moment when they were packing to leave, when Pharaoh finally said go, and they had to gather everything to run blindly out into the unknown. Can you imagine? They're trying to shove all their stuff into bags to grab that unleavened bread that is still burning hot from the oven. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how hard their hearts must have been beating while they packed? How badly their hands must have been shaking? Because that frantic scramble to the edge of the sea, it was not the beginning. It was the end of hundreds of years of wishing for and imagining this moment. That mad dash to the sea was weighed down not just by hastily packed belongings, but by the generations of trauma that slavery brought, reawakened and renewed by the roller coaster of each plague, the hope and the fear and the disappointment. And each time that cycle began again, its effects were worse. The hope was brighter, the fall to disappointment much further, the anxiety deeper. We know that much like grief, trauma and its impacts are cumulative. That roller coaster, the hope and the disappointment, the fear and the anxiety, the calm and the fear, It gets worse. Every time the cycle repeats, it builds. And it takes an enormous toll. And we get it. Next week is our second annual virtual Passover Seder, a sentence I cannot believe I just said. And this has been a year for us of unending anguish. Almost 3 million dead, 500,000 American lives, historic joblessness, a violent attack on our nation's democracy, months of Black Lives Matter protests, a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes, as we well know this week, record homelessness and poverty and hunger, and each and every story of someone who died alone, grieved alone, gave birth alone, graduated alone, got married alone, prayed alone, learned alone. Classrooms empty, parents on the edge of defeat, grandparents unhugged, stay-at-home orders, quarantines, lockdowns. And this whole year, we've made the best of what we could. We've Zoomed, we've distanced, we found silver linings that brought us comfort and hope and the ability to imagine that someday life might look different. And now, it's starting to. We're standing, like our ancestors, at the edge of the sea. We seem to be in this transitional period. Infection rates decreasing, vaccination rates increasing, CDC guidelines loosening, a new administration working, anti-racism dialogue happening, the world slowly reopening. And we're exhausted. We're taught that Pharaoh's heart was hardened, mostly of his own doing, and we're taught that God added to it. And the Hebrew word that is used for that hardening is kaved. And it more accurately means to make heavy. It was made heavy. Kaved originally comes from Akkadian, where it means violent or strong emotions. And it has all kinds of subsequent uses in the Torah. In fact, it appears in the Tanakh 376 times, that root word. Twice. It literally means that something weighs a lot. 374 times it tells us that someone is suffering. The load of the work, the burden of the grief, the hardness of Pharaoh's heart. In fact, that same word is used to describe the heaviness of the hail that fell, the density of the swarms of locusts, the exhaustion of Moses. Over and over and over in this story, the same word is used to tell us about the weight of the trauma. It's cumulative and it's heavy, and we feel it too. That weight. The intensity, the emotion, the struggle, the grief, the trauma, the exhaustion. Experts are calling it PTSE, Pandemic Trauma and Stress Experience. It's an ongoing trauma reaction that weighs us down as we're in the process of beginning to think about being lifted back up. And as we look out at the promise of what we hope will come now, we each have a different response. Some are ready now. Some are cautiously optimistic and hopeful. Some, especially after this week in Atlanta, some are overwhelmed by the work we still have to do, the hate that we have to fight, the change that we have to make. And some are terrified. Some are hesitant. Some want to be ready, and some are too damn tired to think about it. But, like we often read during our services together, when we are standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai, that wherever we are, it is Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. So we're going to wash our hands, and then we're going to grab onto each other, and we're going to hold on. No one gets left behind in this journey, ready or not, scared or not, hesitant or not. We are all, this community, going together. We're going to go slow, really slow, and we're going to think carefully. We know there will be wilderness and that the road will be heavy. We are all carrying, whether we know it or not, an enormous amount of trauma on our backs, and it is cumulative, and it does weigh a lot, and we are tired. But the Israelites walked into the Reed Sea 1 foot at a time. We ask, what were they thinking about as the water rose up their legs, chilling their hearts, advancing toward their open mouths? Sound familiar? We continue to walk here, now, 1 foot at a time, on our better days forward. Alone, I cannot reach the far shore without drowning. But somehow, I don't go under. The person to my right holds me up. Something I cannot see holds her up. Blessed is the source of help, so often unexpected. I step forward. The sea is vast. Blessed are you, gracious one, for your miracles that greet us every day. Shabbat Shalom. And with that, we move now into our Torah reading. I am so honored to call a whole bunch of people to the screen to help us out with our blessings and chanting and our translation today. For our Torah blessing, our opening Torah blessing today, Rachel and Steve Nutt, in honor of their daughter Risa becoming bat mitzvah tomorrow morning. She's our 9 a.m. bat mitzvah. Our Torah reading today from Lisa Velik, and a refuah shlema to Randy, who broke her ankle, I think, last week. So we're sending her lots and lots of love. Our translation today from our Board of Trustees member, Charles Malik, and our post-Torah blessing from Amalia and Neil Rosenblum in honor of Amalia becoming a bat mitzvah tomorrow, right after Risa at 11:30. So mazel tov to all of them. Thank you to Lisa and to Charles. And with that, we turn it over now to our screen so that we can say our opening Torah blessing together.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ve'im min ha'ov ola korbano Adonai, v'hikriv min ha'torim of min b'nei hayona et korbano, v'hikrivo ha'kohen el ha'mizbeach u'malach et rosho, v'hiktir ha'mizbecha, v'nimsa damo al kir ha'mizbeach, v'hesir et murato b'notzata, v'hishlich ota etzel ha'mizbeach kedma el mekom hadashen, v'shisa oto v'knafav lo yavdil, v'hiktir Oto hakohen hamizbecha al ha'etzim asher al ha'esh olahu ishe reach nichoach ladonai.
If your offering to the Eternal is a burnt offering of birds, you shall choose your offering from turtle doves or pigeons. The priest shall bring it to the altar, pinch off its head, and turn it into smoke on the altar, and its blood shall be drained out against the side of the altar. He shall remove its crop with its contents and cast it into the place of the ashes at the east side of the altar. The priest shall tear it open by its wings without severing it, and turn it into smoke on the altar upon the wood that is on the fire. It is a burnt offering, an offering by fire of pleasing odor to the Eternal.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you so much to all of our blessers and to our Torah reader, Lisa, and to Charles. Sorry, Charles, that you got the translation end of this stick in the middle of Vayikra, right? Where we just transitioned. We didn't talk about this. We just transitioned into the book of Leviticus, and we're all about sacrifices. And so that was a deeply gross translation. Thank you so much for reading it for us. And with that, with all of our tradition in our minds and the passing down, even of the stuff that we have to really think about, we come to the Mishaberach, the prayer for healing that we recite with the holiness of what it means to pass that tradition down. And as is our custom here, we will sing the first verse together. And then we will pause and we will read together a list of names that we know of people that are in need of healing. And we will ask you to add your own out loud, type them in, say them in your heart, whatever you want to do so that we can hold them in our hearts with you as we sing together the words of Mishaberach.
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
Today we are praying for Zachary Hoffman, David Karner, David Lustig, Jeff Cohn, David Goldenberg, Stuart Myers, Catherine Plus, Jean Silber, Scott Englander, Stacy Hoffman, Kristen Myers, Corey Franklin, Sandy Shore, Brian John Miller, Jerry Waknov, Michael Roger Janae, Shanti Hazan, Jennifer Brynan, Lynn Pollitt, Lynn McLaughlin Cromar, Howard Rosenberg, Deborah Alenikoff, Alex Busnovetsky, Michael Altenberg, Isabel Make, Ernie Stone, Charles Zandel, Ellie Greenberg, Lori Goldman, Shirley Barton, Randy Velick, Helena Stryker, Faye Greenspun, and Cyril Beinhorn. And I invite you, if you haven't yet, type in any names of those who you love, who you are wishing those prayers of healing upon. And of course, we are sending healing thoughts and blessings to all those who have been affected by the pandemic in this last year, and certainly to all those who were impacted wounded, hurt, who are grieving, who are reeling from the shooting attacks in Atlanta this week. We're sending all of our love and prayers. Baruch atah Adonai, makor harafuah. Blessed are you, source of all healing.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, with these prayers in our hearts, we rise as we are able, physically or spiritually, for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gedula, leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishachavim u'modim livnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And on this Shabbat, we are remembering Erwin Harold Silverberg, who passed away this week. And we add to our list those who we have lost in the last month: Carol Bartlett, Steve Lancer, Dr. Phil Lewis, Arthur Moss, and Stephen Newman. And now we add all those who are, for who we are observing a Yortzeit anniversary of a passing on this Shabbat. Harold H. Ahrens, Arnold Benjamin Allen, Sam Bornstein, Ted Buckstein, Joseph Berwick, Fanny Clark, Rachel Ray Deutsch, Annie D. Dubin, Janet Farber Litvin, Leslie Ann Fishbein, Leonard S. Fox, Shirley Franklin, Gerald H. Friedman, Phil Galinsky, Philip B. Gray, Ellis L. Greenbaum, Fanny Grimes, Werner M. Gross, Julius Heitler, Phyllis R. Hindelman, Dr. Maurice Katz, Maurice Kleiner, Leon Mark Kobe, Isaac Kurland, Lena G. Levy, Theodore Levy, Cora Lang Lewin, Louis H. Lewin, Hyman Lonstein, Vera H. Lubby, Harold Lutz, May L. McCall, N. Henry Masarkey, Annette E. Meyer, Dora Milstein, Lillian Morris, Dina David Newhouse, Freeman Richard Pepper, Dr. Louis A. Pollock, Henry Prince, Paul L. Rabe, Gerson B. Radetsky, Eleanor S. Raffeld, Bert W. Sager, Elliot Lewis Schachter, Abe J. Schloss, Mildred Schoen, Max Schwartz, Norma Schwartz, Harvey Scher, Gladys Cohn Schulman, Pearl B. Simmons, Milton Slepian, Lena Stein, Magali Maria Torres, Jacob Walpin, Julius Wolf, Pearl J. Zellinger, and Dr. Andrew Zener. And we add 10 more names. Those from the city of Kolín in the former Czechoslovakia, for whom our finer chapel is dedicated: Rita Krausova, Vera Krausova, Josefa Steinova-Lauser, Hugo Lederer, Frantiska Leviova, Misa Lowy, Marketa Lowiova, Josef Lustig, Karl Lustig, and Marie Lustigova. We mention one of our beloved community members who has passed away this week. We don't read his name on our list because his funeral hasn't happened yet, but we are mourning the loss of Leonard Streer and sending comfort to his family. That funeral, I believe, will be on Sunday, so we are sending enormous comfort and love to his family. And I invite you as well to type in any other names of those who you are mourning or remembering on this Shabbat. Type them, say them, hold them in your hearts. And if you are in a period of mourning, I invite you to rise spiritually or physically as you are able, so that even though we can't see you, we can honor you in your moment of memory. And now we all stand physically or spiritually and join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkarash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulealmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen.
Oseh shalom, shalom imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Okay, let's see what we've got going on tomorrow for our announcements. Well, we already talked a little bit about what's coming, but tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, Young Family Shabbat, right here in the same place, wherever you are. You can go back to that same place on channel 1 of the website or our main Facebook page for Young Family Shabbat with Steve Brodsky. 10 a.m. Torah study with Rabbi Joe Black. You can either register for the link on Zoom, or you can watch on Facebook or on the website. To 11 o'clock, community service with Rabbi Joe Black and Steve Brodsky. And then 7 p.m. Havdalah with Steve Brodsky. Steve has a busy day tomorrow. Also tomorrow, somebody always gets a busy day. Also tomorrow, on channel 2 of our website, or streamed to our Temple Emanuel Denver B'nai Mitzvah page at 9 a.m., we are celebrating Risa Nutt becoming Bat Mitzvah. And at 11:30 a.m., Amalia Rosenblum becoming Bat Mitzvah. That will be with me and Cantor Sachs. So join us for any and all of it. Some of it's simultaneous, so you're going to have to pick. And a couple of things that are coming up in the next week. Don't forget Thursdays at noon, the spiritual care check-in. For those who have been asking, I just want to clarify really quickly something, which is that every week there's a different link for that experience on Zoom. So you do have to register every time. The link to register is always in your e-notes. If you have questions, you can email us. But I know that that feels like, why can't I just sign up for all of them? Because different clergy are there. And so it's a different Zoom link. So just to make sure that everybody is clear on that. On the 24th, which is what, Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday.
I think Wednesday. We have the third and final installation of Rabbi Stephen Foster and his clergy learning series, which has been fabulous and very informative. He's talking about the big questions of his rabbinate. It's fascinating that they are some of the same questions of mine. So always interesting to think about how that has evolved. Also on the 24th, on Wednesday evening, our Board of Trustees is hosting a wine tasting event. I think registration is still open?
It's still open, and it is with Charles Melick, who you heard read the beautiful translation.
About popping the heads off of pigeons.
That's right. So I'm just saying, if Charles can make that translation sound good, imagine what he can do with wine.
What a talented guy.
100%.
I love that. So if you still, the link to register for that is also in your e-notes. So don't forget to sign up for that. It should be really fun. And you'll need wine for your Seder. So this is just like gearing you up for it. I think you're going to open bottles that you can then hang on to for a Seder. And then finally, Seder is coming. Passover is coming. So we're going to have Friday night regular Shabbat. And then Saturday night is our Seder. It is, what time is it at, Cantor Sachs?
There are so many times. So here's the easiest way to remember it. 5 o'clock is for young families. It is going to be a short, quick exploration of Seder. So 5 o'clock for littles. 6 o'clock, we will stream the first part of the Seder. 7 o'clock will be in interactive learning sessions that you can register for through our e-notes with Rabbi Hyatt or Rabbi Black and Brad Cohen. Or you can stay in the Seder stream and learn with me. And then 7:30, which I cannot do with my fingers, 7:30 is the rest of the Seder. So 5 o'clock for littles, 6 o'clock streamed Seder right on this channel, right on this Facebook page, 7 o'clock learning sessions, and then 7:30, lots of singing after we have had lots of delicious wine. So you know how that's going to go. So much. That's it. That's our Seder schedule, which is everywhere. Like, look on our website, look in the e-notes. If you have questions, definitely email or call us. We want as many people to join us as possible. We love Passover together.
Yeah. And don't forget that what we did, it's the same as what we did last year, right? The Seder is going to feel really similar. The difference is in the middle last year, we played some music. In the middle of this year, we're going to have opportunities to learn. We're up in our game. So buckle up. Okay. Just so you know, on Sunday, the 28th is Passover first day worship, and that will be at 11 o'clock in the morning. And everything else, I think you should look in the e-notes for, because that's a lot of information to intake, and I think we might be full. Let's do Kiddush.
Okay, that sounds great.
Hold on
So,
one second.
here we go. We're building the tolerance already. It's happening. Let's get ready for Pesach. But you only get 1 cup. But Pesach, you got to do 4. Here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'maseh v'reishi ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher l'tzion mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'ratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. Almost last Chala Shabbat. Here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. All right, so we are concluding our service this morning with other words that we are going to prepare to read on Pesach from our song of the sea. Ozi v'zimrat yavayahili lishua. Adonai is my strength and my song. And so God is my salvation. We get ready to sing the song of the sea.
Yehi ratzon milfanecha, in this last week of walking toward that sea until we celebrate the freedom that our people found on the other side, we ask your blessing, that we bring people with us, that we care for those who are not yet ready, that we are kind and compassionate, and that we listen to those around us as our world begins to bloom again in spring, and we know that that blooming might be kind of hard and kind of scary. And we ask you, God, as we do that walking, tatzidenu l'shalom, help our steps be steps of peace. Tadrichenu l'shalom, help our path be a path of peace. As we say together, Amen and Shabbat Shalom.